Europeans of Reddit, what about America makes you go thank goodness we don't have that here? What about those housing association thingies that tell you what color your fence has to be and fine you if your doorbell is the wrong shape or whatever? They sound awful. Homeowners associations, or HOAs. My grandma owns a condo and still has to pay around $400 month to whatever the frickin' HOA does in a condo complex. Except there, they can also tell you what is not okay to do inside your owned home. That gap in the bathroom stalls. WTF is that about even? As a Canadian who has watched American TV my whole life, it's the ask your doctor if this medicine is right for you slogan. Like the doctor recommends pills. I never have to ask my doctor about medicine. Also pharmaceutical ads on TV. Yesterday I read a post by a child-free woman who was happy about the luxury she had that she could take one of her 5 sick days when she was sick without worrying about the possibility of a kid getting sick and having to take them for that. Apparently co-workers who were parents just came to work sick because they couldn't risk it. I can't wrap my head around how anyone could feel lucky with only being allowed to be sick for 4 more days this year. My husband works in a blue-collar industry. He gets 4 days of paid time off a year. 40 hours total. He works 10-hour shifts, and he has to use it for both vacation and sick leave. It's disgusting and should be illegal. The work culture. Some of the stories about people working 80 hours a week scare the living bejesus out of me. A colleague, Eastern European of mine, was asked to join a wind farm installation project in the US. He was told it would last 6 months. When he asked what the rotation was, i.e., 4 weeks on 2 off, he was told it was 6 months straight and 12 hours a day of physical graft, although they would probably be doing more hours than that. Naturally he turned it down. Florida man. To be fair, Florida man is generally a man that happens to live in Florida. Tipping. The whole thing is BS and a con from the businesses. They've managed to con you all into thinking it is normal for the customer to be directly responsible for the service staff's financial well-being. Meanwhile, they get away with paying the staff below minimum wage. Yes, I've been absolutely appalled when I first heard about the tipping culture. Okay, it may be recent, but that the election is like the WWE. Trump comes out of a cloud of smoke while the Undertaker music is playing, spouting crap. But wait, here comes Hillary dabbing you can't see her, her time is now. Crap like this really divides the country, and I hope the upcoming election will be more civil, but I doubt it lol. Bernie enters the ring and raises his fists to the sky, causing the whole audience to cheer. Hillary bashes him unconscious with a chair. Cities you have to drive to get anywhere. I expected it in rural places. Then I visited Florida and found that some towns don't have sidewalks, and they had an outdoor mall where several shops were connected by parking lots with no way to walk the 50 meter from one to the other. You had to drive to every single one. Your food quality. European food security standards are way stricter than the American ones, and I want to keep it that way. Cries in UK leaving the EU and negotiating with US business on food standards, or healthcare, or just anything at all. Your healthcare. Also tuition. The healthcare is one thing. The one that would worry me more is the sheer number of people who exhibit frick you I got mine when it comes to talking about healthcare reform. The US seems to have lost that thing where you want to take care of your countrymen. Healthcare system is the most backwards I'm ever known. I'm an American living in Australia and I'm a citizen. I just had quinsy, infected tonsillitis, and had to go to the hospital cause I legit couldn't talk. I was so worried, for it's my first time in hospital in the 8.5 years of being here. I go in, quick op, I stayed overnight and got a crap ton of antibiotics given every 4 hours of my stay. Great food for hospital standards and great staff. When I asked about the bill, the nurses were confused. Then I explained I'm from the USA and they laughed, saying it's all covered by universal healthcare. Like, no cost? My intense drugged and op with an overnight stay cost me nothing frick. It was like a hotel treatment. The McDonald's ice cream machine being broken. That happens constantly in the UK too. Going to go with a bit of a list here. I know there are great things about America, so really I'm not trying to hate on you guys. I'm from Ireland BTW. Your healthcare system is worse than ours, and that's a pretty big achievement. VAT not being included in the price of goods. The work culture with minimal holidays, shite hours, and where it's acceptable to work late regularly. Having to drive everywhere. I'm 15 and I probably won't need to learn to drive until I'm in my 20s and won't buy a car for quite a long time. Public transport is not great here, but at least it's better than in America. Also, how easy it is to get a driver's license. I'm not completely certain how it works for you lads, but here you need to take a written test, then do minimum 10 lessons and then take your actual driving test. A lot of things about your government seem messed up. Your two-party system, and I can't imagine not having single transferable votes here. The amount of wars you get involved in. I'm from a neutral country, so maybe that's why it's so hard for me to understand, and also how your veterans are treated. The government treats them like crap, but the public hails every one of them like heroes. The education system and college systems. Here college is free and you just pay €3,000. Also, people pick colleges based on the college and not the course. I don't fully understand how it works with majors, I'll admit. The patriotism. It's on a whole other level. Making a pledge to the flag is just weird, no offense. The amount everything varies by state. Either you are one country or not, make up your mind. Not being able to go to another country easily. That really sucks for you guys. Having guns so common. When I go abroad and see so many police with guns, I get a fright, never mind people that have not been fully trained. Not being able to trust the police and people being afraid of them. I don't know how I'd get on if I couldn't trust the people there to protect me. So much sugar in bread. I'm not picking here, but I've heard that bread has about twice the amount of sugar as usual. The healthcare system makes me the most angry. People go in lifelong debt or become homeless or worse because something happened to them that they have zero control over. How can anyone defend that? It always breaks my heart to see monthly bills of high 3-digit prices for things like insulin. Something people need to just not die. Your fricking system of Fahrenheit and not using the metric system. The UK isn't exactly 100% metric. The roads are in miles, yards, and it's common to encounter pints and feet. The two-party system, militarized police, crappy internet that's super expensive, child beauty pageants, imperial unit system of measurement, driver's tests that let every man, woman, child, blind person, quadruple amputee, house cat, and wooden spoon have a driver's license, NAMBLA, creationism museum, mega churches. Crappy internet that's super expensive, cries in Germany. I'll go with the biggest reasons. I could not live under that healthcare system. For every comment I see saying just get good insurance, I see a story about how their insurance company deemed some vital medicine they needed as not necessary and refused to cover it. Or someone who had coverage with their job got fired because they dared actually try to use it. I married an American woman and her family always ask if we're going to move to the USA because our wages would be higher. But what's the point of more money if a single medical issue can wipe out your savings? Another is the work-life balance. I see too many stories about companies expecting you to put work before private life, and too many Americans defending this idea. I, like probably most Europeans, work to live, not live to work. I'm a Brit living in North America and the life to work thing here is brutal. There barely is balance at all. Even the weekends fly by. Your lack of time off work. I get 26 days of leave plus 8 bank holidays. I also get 26 further days off a year for working an extra 30 minutes a day. I'm Australian but we're in Eurovision now so it counts. I'd have to say school shootings is biggest one for me. You can keep those all to yourself. I probably should change the question to Eurovision participants LMAO. I saw a video of an American police officer who smashed a window and was dragging some dude out of his car because the dude wanted to know why he was pulled over and the police officer refused to tell him until he saw identification. People in comments were defending the police officer. In the UK, the police would only get that violent if the person was actually a criminal who was being dangerous to others. How 1 ounce of water is not 1 FL. Oz of water. In the EU, 1 milliliter of water is 1 gram of water. The blurring of the trias politica. How judges have to be appointed by the president and senate, or how the president tries to influence trials or judgments on Twitter, makes my blood boil. This, independent judges, is one of the fundamentals of my country. It's really shocking that a Western country like the US doesn't have independent judges. Having to go back to work just 6 or 8 weeks after having a baby. I'm not budging anywhere until that kid is at least 1.5. And if you're in the Scandinavian belt, dads and moms get the same amounts of leave so the kid is covered for like 2 years. Your health insurance seems to have more in common with a scam than something that is supposed to provide care. Your whole dang healthcare system does. Prices are seriously overinflated and that's accepted and okay there? Wake up a bit and look at the rest of the world. No one else does that, just America. Yeah, but the people getting screwed over by it generally don't get a voice against it because they can't afford one. Every single aspect of human rights in America has become monetized. Nothing can be given like healthcare or education without profit having the utmost importance. Does education really have to be that expensive? Does the ibuprofen really need to be $20 a pill in hospitals? Like WTF. That whole thing you have with gigantic gaps around toilet stall doors. What's the reasoning behind making sure everyone can see you take a crap? Is it fear that someone might shoot up in there? I'd heard about the toilet gaps before I visited the US and it still shocked me when I first encountered them. Literally 0 point. People preaching in public. I visited NY once and I was boarding a boat and there was this guy yelling about Jesus. Here people are not that passionate about religion where I live. You would probably get fined here. Gas fine. For being too loud and bothering people. That's probably due to how our First Amendment is interpreted. Generally it's viewed as speech alone is allowed, but the law gets involved when there's physical interaction. I know there's more nuance than that, but it's late. Having children pledge allegiance to the flag. Holy crap, that is some evil brainwashing. I've heard people defend this by saying it's not mandatory. Well, neither is standing and putting your hand on your heart for the national anthem. But look at the crap storm that went down when that football player took a knee. Land of the free, yeah, frick off. When I went to school, no one ever told me it was optional. Elected, opposed to appointed, hired, promoted, judges, sheriffs etc. i.e. basically making these jobs depend on popularity and wealth. Campaigning, rather than qualification. Unaffordable university fees, education costs, i.e. no upward mobility for poor people. No mandatory, and for poor people free, health insurance, i.e. people literally dying of preventable diseases, minor injuries, easily treatable chronic illnesses etc. only for lack of money. People feeling offended by everything and everybody. This attitude, that everything that I don't like or agree with is an offense towards me personally, is nowhere else as bad as in America in my experience. Death penalty, literally lifelong imprisonment. Well, we do have this option here but it's extremely rare in practice. The whole prison and probation system in general. Sugar in everything, even the most basic foods. I was shocked how sweet everything is overseas, even stuff that's not supposed to be sweet. From a European perspective, like most bread or even some vinegars, and the locals don't even notice it. They'll tell you it doesn't taste sweet, while for a European it's like candy. The food in general is overall pretty bad. There are of course exceptions. I'm speaking generally and about the normal food that the average person has on their plate. Not just the sugar but all the other stuff that must be in it too. A loaf of bread should not have a shelf life of 2 weeks. Lawsuits. Of course you can sue in Europe but the system is different, so we don't sue each other at the drop of a hat. I always thought it was weird how rarely Americans sue each other until it dawned on me that a payout might be the only way they can pay for treatment after an accident or something. Obvious answers are things like healthcare, but goddamn I'm so glad we're generally far less religious. I do understand and respect that for a lot of people religion is very important, but it appears to have such a profound and insidious influence over American society that's led to so many unnecessary problems and injustices. Frankly, it just really creeps me out. Here in the UK even the religious people we do have tend not to be that religious. Insane medication prices. I've looked it up, and I literally could not afford to exist in America. That is kind of messed up. Most here will be more abstract things, though I would like to add my personal grudge when I am in the USA. The food. You can get proper food, but that's expensive. Normal place to eat are just not good. The bread is light and fluffy. Cheese feels and tastes like a chemical substance. Chocolate it's more like brown sugar and the beer seems to be watered down. Happy to be home and get my bread at a bakery instead of the Walmart. After spending a semester abroad in the US, it's not your oversized toilets, or your imperial system, or your lack of labor rights. No, it's those freaking LL Bean boots. Jesus Christ, why would anyone wear something this ugly? They're the Fiat multiple of shoes. That's rich, coming from a resident of the country that gave the world Birkenstocks with socks. I'm so glad that we don't have absurdly high medical bills. Having lived in both the UK and US, healthcare, frick, give me the NHS any day. I'm lucky enough that I'm able to get a fairly decent insurance plan for a fairly decent price with premium tax credit taking a chunk out of it, but the simple thing is you don't need that in the UK. You just register with your nearest GP and you're set because everything is on the government. There's a lot of doomsaying that the NHS is on the verge of collapse, but seriously, the only reason I'd take US healthcare over UK is because the doctors here are a little less hesitant to give referrals. If it's a dodgy call in the UK, it's a government problem. In the US, it's the insurance company's problem, and that becomes my problem, and for some care I need, I'm happy with that. Gun laws. Okay, in interior Alaska, running into a polar bear or angry moose is sort of legitimate concern, but generally I liked it when I could broadly assume most people didn't carry a pistol round due to them being highly illegal to own. University tuition. I mean, wow. In the UK, the tuition cap going from $3,250 a year to $9,000 a year caused walkouts and protests. Here it's just accepted as reality. I've seen social media posts where people proudly say this shouldn't change because they personally joined the army to pay their way, and that is not an argument in favor of this. Food, EU regulations on additives were nice. I don't think my diet has changed too much, but I've gained like 30 pounds since moving, and getting it to frick back off isn't easy. That's a few things. The views are better here though. Also, I mean, yay snow. In Scotland our uni and college tuition is freebie. I shudder at the stupid level of British politics over the last few years, but US politics takes it down to a whole new level of heck and inanity. Two-party system. Like, we've got 9 parties in our parliament, and though it also sucks, I will take their constant small arguments over 2 parties violating the country and people being afraid of voting for anyone else. Also, electoral college sucks. Being pulled over for a broken taillight potentially being your last day on earth. Being fined or ending up in court for jaywalking. Having to drive hundreds of miles to vote, register to vote. Also, why is skin color, race, political affiliation required on voter registration forms? Why not just name, address, dob? Healthcare. People die, end up homeless or in crippling debt because no one can afford preventive healthcare. People rationing medication or putting off health needs until the last minute it's too late. That's insane. Imagine how much money the country would actually save if they let people see a doctor for before it become a stay in the ICU. I have 2 herniated discs in my neck and can't get treatment until I pay $500. I'm a single mom. I don't have $500. That's literally 3/4 of the money I have to make it a whole month after bills. So I just suck it up and try to get my sick little one to understand why mommy can't pick her up right now. The obsession with their flag. Then again, I'm probably riding a wave of oh crap, we've invaded and colonized loads of countries and forced our flag, religion and way of life on them, so probably better not do that anymore, being as I'm from the UK. People obsessed with the Union flag or St. George's flag here are generally looked down on as being pretty scummy. It's gotten to the point that if I see the English St. George's flag, my first thought is EDL and not just England. Our own flag hasn't got a great reputation in its own country. Was waiting for this. The one thing that I always hate about US so much is USA, 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 USA. Double quote. Especially in situations when it's not even relevant to be nationalistic. Houses that break when you punch into the wall once. Chlorinated chicken. Luckily our welfare standards are good enough to mean we don't get as many horrible germs on our raw meat. Chlorinated what now? I feel blessed every day to have a free school education and free healthcare. I couldn't imagine how it would be like if I would be in debt just because I go to school or broke my leg. You have been visited by the distinguished doggo with delicious delicacies. Comment tasty supper, pupper, and be blessed with delectable dishes for the next decade. Like and subscribe, you magnificent person.